Good evening. My name is Patrick Moore, naturopathic doctor, and I'd like to welcome you all to another edition of Health Buzz, Natural Perspectives on Health and Healing. We have a fascinating show tonight, which we're going to look at some of the healthiest foods on the world. And to help me do that, I'm delighted to have a great guest co-host, Maureen Raucci from the New Haven Hospital Complex. And Maureen is new to our viewers here in Health Buzz, so welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I'd like to tell you a little bit about her before we get started. And I think you've been a nurse for, is it 24 years now?
It is.
Yes.
I was 2 when I started.
Well, you look so young and everything like that, so you've got that special holistic spirit. And now you're very involved in managing some very important operations at one of the premier cancer centers in all of America, and certainly in Connecticut, the Smilo Cancer Center.
Yes.
At New Haven Hospital. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Maureen?
I could. So I am very fortunate to work at Smilo Cancer Hospital at Yale New Haven. I'm the nurse manager for the inpatient medical oncology unit, which is a 28-bed inpatient unit. And we really provide state-of-the-art, amazing, holistic care to our patients every day.
Wow. Now, you're also very well known. I've seen your pictures up on the halls of the hospital as sort of a superstar nurse. I understand you've been involved in some raising $500,000.
Well, I have an entire team of patients, families, and staff who are involved in that. With the Closer to Free Ride, which is the biggest fundraising event for Smilo Cancer Hospital, we are entering our 6th year of the ride this September, and we're looking and welcoming new riders and volunteers. So if you'd like to join us, please do. It's an amazing day. I'm known as saying it's my favorite day of the year, which it truly is. It's truly inspirational.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And just for all you viewers, I met Maureen a few years ago because she was managing a special program called Nurturing for Nurses at Yale New Haven Hospital. And this was a wonderful program where you take nurses off-site for a day and teach them all kinds of ways that they can take better care of themselves. So I was doing the holistic nutrition, 2 hours. I tried to squeeze it into 3 hours sometimes, and that's how we got to know each other. And so before we start on this program of, this is our first show, 2016. As many of you know, we made our debut, myself and Marlisa McLaughlin, and Marlisa is our executive producer of the show today. She's taking a break. But we started in August of 2015. And I just want to thank all of you viewers out there who have sent in a lot of nice emails of support and thanks and encouragement. We're seen here throughout southeastern Connecticut, thank goodness to SEC TV, both Frank Ficini and Fulciero, the executive director and the director of technical programming, who have nurtured this program, supported it, and I want to thank them very much. For those viewers, once we post this onto YouTube, we've had feedback as far away as Hong Kong and Thailand and Sweden and Iceland and Germany. So thank you for all your comments. And for those who have given some very critical remarks, I thank you for those constructive criticisms also. So before we start the show, I'd just like to reiterate the mission that Marlisa and I developed in terms of Health Buzz. This is an educational program. It's not meant to diagnose disease, it's not meant to give medical advice, but it's meant to explore natural and historical perspectives on health and healing and show you, the viewers, how food, diet, nutrients, lifestyle, and emotional wellness can promote optimal health and lead to productive lifespans and hopefully lengthy health spans for all of us, drug-free. We also look to highlight current trends and discoveries in the world of natural health, not typically covered by the mainstream media. And believe me, there's a lot going on that you never hear about, because anything you can't patent doesn't get onto the television stations throughout the day. It's basically just drug commercials from morning to night. So we like to look at that and present many information and things that can help you. The last aspect in relation to that is to challenge and confront some of the conventional wisdom and health advice that's being promoted by the medical establishment, pharmaceutical establishment in America today. We highlighted that in our first show back in August, our debut show, when we looked at cracking the cholesterol myth, where we really challenged this myth that cholesterol in food is dangerous for you and that it could actually, in my opinion, be very beneficial. After 50 years of misinformation, just a few weeks ago, the U.S. government changed its dietary guidelines, and basically it had egg on its face and admitted that 50 years of misinformation that eggs are fine, cholesterol in food is fine, has no relationship to cholesterol in your bloodstream. So that was a pioneering show that started the debut of our program, and we're going to have a lot more for you. So again, if we could have that first slide, Frank, on what the theme of our show is, we're going to start a series of what are the healthiest foods in the world. And I'd like to ask all of you viewers out there, if you were to make a list, what are the top 10 healthiest foods you could think of? What would they be? Would it be kale, spinach, carrots, whatever they might be? Or let's make it the top 25. So we're going to be exploring this, and we're going to talk about 3 foods today. One of them, to me, is the most powerful nutritional food on earth in many respects. Another one of the foods is a food you would never think could be such a powerhouse, a food that doesn't get much respect at all. And we're going to finish up on showing you, lastly, a food substance that might even stop a heart attack while it's happening. So with that note, what food should we start with, Maureen?
Let's start with coconut oil.
Coconut oil. Well, I have a fondness for coconut oil. I mean, we can read that. Coconut oil, my goodness, I was born in American Samoa and brought up in Hawaii, so Polynesian culture, coconuts are something that I'm very fond of. So what does that say? For all you viewers, you can read that first part for them, Maureen.
So absolutely. So coconut oil actually has the most commonalities with breast milk. Now, Mother Nature certainly knows best, and coconut milk and breast milk both have similar properties with lauric acid and with primarily fatty saturated acids. So those are really great. The benefits of those make it a wonderful energizer, a fat burner, wonderful for weight control, brain health. Could go on to talk about the antibiotic and antiviral properties, and it's of course wonderful.
Okay, so you can take that slide off now, Frank. Let's talk about that, because I thought that coconut oil saturated was supposed to be bad for you. I mean, for decades we've heard that, and I know that there was a time before World War II that coconut was used by everyone, but then because of the war, Pacific Ocean, the war going on, imports from Philippines and Indonesia stopped, and coconut kind of disappeared.
It did.
And then it kind of got a bad name, this word saturated.
Saturated has really become a scary word for people, but if you educate yourself and you know the background, it really need not be. So
yeah, it's amazing that nature would make breast milk saturated, primarily saturated.
Right.
And for your viewers, we kind of demonize that word, but why would nature make breast milk saturated? In chemistry terms, saturated means, and I don't want to get too technical, there are no double bonds, which makes the word saturated, or any fat that's saturated, extremely stable. It doesn't oxidize. And why would you want to have breast milk going to an infant that goes rancid quickly? You want it to be stable.
Absolutely.
So that's the essence of saturated. And the Framingham Heart Study, it's called, right? Mm-hmm. The most revered and treasured study. The director said there is no relationship between heart disease, inflammation, and saturated and cholesterol. So hopefully that's another myth that's going to come tumbling down.
I certainly hope so, because it's really been life-changing for me to learn about all the amazing things that you can do with coconut oil and the positive impact that it has. And you can see it and feel it within a very short period of time.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what is it with this lauric acid? I mean, that is it. So breast milk has the saturated, but it has this very special acid, breast milk, called lauric acid. And you only find it basically in one food substance in the whole world, which is palm oil, coconut oil, in that family.
That's right.
Amazing.
So it's a medium chain triglyceride. It's called an MCT. And what makes that so spectacular is, if you think about it in simple terms, it's a small molecule and it can get right to where you need it. So if you need energy, it can go right in. It doesn't have to be processed by the liver, and you immediately have some energy to use.
So most fats are what are called long chain. So these small chain, medium chain, you're saying they're small molecules and they get right into the bloodstream?
They do.
Activates your metabolism, activates the thyroid. So that might be good for what? Losing weight too?
Losing weight, keeping you full, for athletes, for energy.
I recall when my mom was at Griffin Hospital in Derby, Connecticut, I had asked, ICU unit, do you have anything that give my mom a little more energy? And I actually asked for MCT oil, and they had it on the formulary. So we put it into her, and boy, that really bolstered her, that little oil going right into her. I've heard it also, though, it's, what's this with the brain, because we got a lot of people out there, including myself, getting on with age, brain power, memory isn't working as well as I'd like. We got people with dementia, people with Alzheimer's. Can coconut help us there?
Absolutely, and to me this is the most astounding and exciting news that's out there. So the coconut oil has really been shown to be very helpful in patients with dementia and Alzheimer's. So in particular, there's a physician, Dr. Mary Newport. You can look her up on YouTube, you can Google her research, it's breathtaking. She's a board-certified pediatrician and neonatologist. And she started studying coconut oil in response to studies that she was reading about with the pharmaceutical companies and the positive effects it could have with Alzheimer's.
Because her husband, right, was...
Yes, he was diagnosed with some early dementia and Alzheimer's, and she started to do her own little study just at home with astounding impact.
Yeah. So she started giving, from the little bit I've read, you know more than I do, but she was, what was it, 1 tablespoon twice a day?
Yep.
She started with?
She started slow, and then she slowly increased and started to see that his memory was improving, that he was a little bit quicker. We're not taking so much time in the morning to get things done and look around for things. And she increased that. I think she actually went up to 2 tablespoons 3 times a day.
Wow. Wow. Because, I've read that, Alzheimer's, it's becoming an epidemic in America and very costly, and dementia and things like that. But some practitioners are starting to call it diabetes 3. Mm-hmm. In other words, the cells of our brain are becoming resistant to glucose, so coconut oil forms what are called ketones.
And the ketones get right in there and give you energy, and they're able to really get through that blood-brain barrier and help out right away. So patients who are having trouble with memory are actually seeing drastic improvements.
Wow. So I know that you've started coconut oil, and I use coconut oil. How do you use it? You put it in your...
So I put it in my coffee in the morning. I'll admit I was a skeptic at first, but I gave it a try. And so I'd put a tablespoon in my coffee, add a little bit of cocoa, a little bit of cinnamon, and it's like a treat first thing in the morning. And not only do you feel full of energy, you actually feel full. You're not hungry for most of the morning.
For hours, yeah. Hours. Yeah, well, you and I are on the same wavelength there, because I'm putting that coconut every morning because I know it's going into the metabolism, to the brain, energy, and also the fact that, we talked about this lauric acid, which is probably one of the most potent antibacterial, antiviral, antiparasitic, and antifungal nutrient on earth. And it's probably why the breast milk, which it has in common with the coconut oil, breastfed babies have so much fewer complications in terms of, would you agree with,
Absolutely. Less colds, less infections, less asthma. There's plenty of research around that breastfed babies have less asthma.
Yeah. So one advice that I have for people who start on coconut, because it is very potent, and what I would suggest if you're going to use it, that you start small, because if you have underlying candida or any yeast or any infection like that, you don't want to kill that off and get into the bloodstream too rapidly. Right. So about 20 to 25% of the time, I've seen people actually get a little tired taking coconut oil at first. They say, I don't think that agrees with me, And really what it is, that's actually a good sign. It's actually doing some good stuff, maybe killing off some candida and yeast. So I recommend people, if they're going to start on coconut and haven't used it before, start with a teaspoon a day. After a few days, if it's fine, go to 2 teaspoons. 3 teaspoons. 3 teaspoons is a tablespoon. See how you feel. If you feel a little fatigue, go back and then gradually build up to that 1 tablespoon a day. And are you doing 1 or 2? I'm
doing 1 a day right now.
Yeah.
And for people with a sweet tooth, there's lots of different options that you can use. So if you're not a coffee drinker, you're a tea drinker, at the end of the day, you can make this nice little concoction with a cup of dark cocoa, chips, and you melt it down with a cup of coconut oil. You mix it up, put it in the freezer, and you have a nighttime treat, and you've gotten your coconut oil that way if you're not a coffee drinker.
We're coming to your house when you got it made.
I will.
The last thing before we move on, because coconut, is certainly just a remarkable food, is that, look at my hair. What's in my hair right now?
Coconut oil.
Coconut oil. Why would, throughout Southeast Asia and South Asia, coconut oil is used by everyone in their hair. All the women use it to have luxurious hair. Because again, you talked about those small molecules. They can get right into the cell membrane and deliver all those nutrients into the hair. And what about skin?
I was just going to say, what
Look at
about
you.
skin? Yeah.
Radiant.
Thank you, thank you. My daughter, in particular, I have 2 daughters, but my older daughter is a frequent believer and user of the coconut oil. She uses it in her hair and on her skin all the time, and she loves it.
Yeah, because
Absolutely
you have the
loves it.
antioxidant, anti-wrinkle, and things of that nature. And again, that fatty acid, medium chain triglyceride, can get right in, penetrate to the dermis, and do so many good things. So coconut oil, any kind of skin infection or things like that, I mean, can be extremely therapeutic. So I use it in coffee. You can use it as a butter substitute. You can cook with it because it's extremely stable. And if you're looking to get it, it's now in Stop and Shop.
You can get it anywhere.
But if you want to save some money, Vitacost.com, that's VITACOST, Vitacost.com is a great resource to go online and buy it. Same products, unrefined, extra virgin, organic coconut oil at half the price you get in a health food store, so Vitacost.com. So to me, that's the superfood, coconut. So, should we move on to one of the most unrespected, disrespected powerhouse vegetable on earth?
We should.
What could that be?
Celery.
Celery. So could we have that next? I know this is going to surprise everybody when we chose celery as one of the most powerhouse foods on earth. Now, you remember that comedian, Rodney
Dangerfield.
Dangerfield? What was his favorite saying?
I get no respect.
I get no respect, and celery gets no respect. And I think you can see how many dinner parties have you been to where you wine and cheese, you know, everybody takes the wine, cheese, crackers, they got the nice little fancy French dips. What's left over at the end of the night?
The poor celery is always left behind.
It never gets a date.
Never gets a date.
That lonely celery, unfortunately. Well, we want to bring celery back and, you know, give it some respect. And it has some remarkable benefits. First of all, just imagine breathing in that aroma of celery. Very distinctive.
Absolutely.
Do you know that there are chemical compounds in celery that have a dramatic effect on calming the central nervous system? I mean, special compounds that calm the brain and calm the mind. Actually precursors to what's called GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, which is a natural nutrient which a lot of the pharmaceutical companies have tried to make things like Xanax and Valium. So calming the mind with celery. My travels in China and Southeast Asia, I was always surprised at the second application that the ancient practitioners were using it to treat high blood pressure. Now, did you ever think celery, high blood pressure?
You wouldn't think that.
But in Chinese traditional medicine, it's number one. You know, number one treatment for. There's a compound. I don't know how you pronounce that. How do you pronounce that fancy name?
So it's actually phthalide, and it's actually spelled PHTHALIDE. So it's phthalide, and it works by relaxing the muscle tissues. So it lowers the blood pressure because it can get in and relaxes the arteries and the muscle tissues, and so it increases the circulation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And for all of those, you know, we're not suggesting you go off your meds, right?
No, we're not suggesting
That's not what
that
this
at
show
all.
is. We're not a medical show, but we want to share that information that remarkably for centuries, if not thousands of years, even going back to Hippocrates talked about this almost 2,500 years ago. One of his main medicines was celery juice. And so what the studies have shown, and there was actually the University of Chicago Medical Center did a lot of studies on celery. They found that if you already have low blood pressure and take celery, it doesn't affect it. But if you have high blood pressure, and the recommendation, if you want a dosage, 2 to 4 stalks per day. Now you can eat that or you can juice it. So as your blood pressure normalizes or improves, you have the calmness of mind. But one of the amazing therapeutic applications for celery is this substance called, apigenin?
Apigenin.
I have my hospital person, professional, to help me pronounce names. Apigenin.
Apigenin.
How do you spell that?
It's APIGENIN.
Apigenin.
And the research out there with apigenin in cancer studies is phenomenal. I just this morning read a research study back in October in regards to apigenin and breast cancer, and it's showing that it's actually stopping cell growth. So here's another great example of where you can have the mixture of Eastern and Western medicine and be following your treatment and just adding a few little healthy things in that you can just include in your diet that might really help you feel better and improve your day.
Yeah, now you said East and Western. Now, Hippocrates was Western, wasn't he? So I like to think that this is our heritage, natural medicine, nutritional medicine. Of course, we go back and forth between what's called naturopathic, allopathic, but learning about this, what the ancients knew and bringing this information to you as part of this show. And the fact that when I was down in some alternative cancer clinics in Mexico, particularly Max Gerson, the Gerson Institute, which I recall Albert Schweitzer called him one of the greatest scientists of the early 20th century with his knowledge. But down in his clinic, they're using apigenin-type food products because it's not just celery, but parsley and thyme, juicing it with all the alternative medicine cancer patients down there. And so it's just one more application that people can use, in the world of natural medicine. And so I know with celery, it's kind of hard to eat, right? Another good application for it.
It can be.
Now, have you ever heard of the celery diet?
I have not.
No. You'd have sore jaws if you had to chew that celery all day long. But it's actually what's called a negative calorie food. So if you're chewing it, you're actually using up more calories than you're actually bringing into your body.
Oh, that's something we should all add to our diet.
Yeah, how's that?
That's great.
Imagine eating it and losing weight. Because
that
it takes so much
anything
work.
Else.
Yeah, it takes so much work because it's so fibrous. So it's a good alkaline-forming food. It's a good laxative, a good diuretic. I'm sure great for the kidneys and things like that. Just before we go on to and good fiber. So helps to stabilize blood sugar and control your appetite. Before we go on to our next, or which could be our last food, there are just a couple more applications they've discovered about this vegetable that doesn't get any respect. Thank you. Bone strength. Did you ever think of celery, the shape of it? It's almost like a bone in a way, isn't it?
That's true, it is.
It's almost like a bone, but it has vitamin K, which is a fantastic vitamin which helps to take calcium and deposit in the bone matrix. And silicone. You've all heard of Silicon Valley? Okay, well, silicone is a mineral that has a very important role in bone strength. So think of celery as bone strength. And I remember that Japan study about arthritic.
Yeah, so it's actually being used in Japan to treat arthritis and rheumatoid conditions. So it's bringing down the inflammation, and patients are really starting to feel better. In addition to, I think you already mentioned, that it helps with gout.
Yeah.
So they use the celery, and it pulls the uric acid out of the system, and patients really are feeling better and getting rid of that gout pain.
Yeah, that's amazing. So any of you with gout, you might want to try the celery. Go on it a couple stalks, 4 stalks a day. You can even juice it and drink it. The last aspect of celery is a recent discovery by the Chicago Taste and Smell Center, run by Dr. Alan Hirsch, very well known, very well respected man who looks at essential oils and their effect on the brain and brain chemistry. And we know that celery has that very unique, specific aroma, and he's discovered 2 pheromones. Could you pronounce that word to me?
Pheromones.
Pheromones, thank you. And what are those exactly? I know.
So pheromones actually are already used in the veterinary world, and actually you can get, if your cat or your dog has a little anxiety issue, you can get a little collar and it has pheromones in them, and you can't actually smell it yourself, but it has a tremendous calming effect. I've actually used it on my own puppy Bella at home, and it was amazing.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Well, the Chicago study showed that he classified them as aphrodisiacs.
Oh.
Now, did you ever think of celery as an aphrodisiac? Well,
I never did.
Maybe we should chew down on it a little more, give it a try. Okay, so that's celery. Hopefully, we've shared some information with you on celery to show you that, it really is something not to perhaps leave at the cocktail party, to think differently about celery than you've ever thought before.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, we said one of our last nutrients we're going to discuss in terms of the world's greatest foods could stop a heart attack, possibly, in its track.
I mean, that's a bit of emergency medicine everyone should know about.
Yes. And cayenne. What is cayenne? Cayenne is a hot pepper. Some of you may know it as Tabasco sauce, but there are many hot peppers in the world. And the way hot peppers are classified is in terms of heat units. Thank you, Frank. Heat units. And for example, go to the pizza parlor. The heat, that stuff you put on the pizza, that's about 5,000 heat units. Cayenne is about 40 to 100,000 heat units. Jalapeno, 50,000. Habanero, Serrano, way up to 250,000 heat units. It's known in natural medicine, the more heat, the more therapeutic it is. There's nothing I've ever found in the world of naturopathic medicine that can, boom, stimulate circulation faster and blood flow than taking Cayenne into the body. My goodness.
It's certainly a powerhouse.
Yes. I know you've tried it a few times with the nurses,
I
right?
have tried it with the nurses. It's the favorite part of the retreat. Honestly, people are always a little pensive and apprehensive to give it a try. But every single person who has tried it has been astonished with how they've gone from feeling maybe a little lethargic and tired. We tend to do it at the end of an 8-hour day, and boom, your energy goes right up.
Absolutely. This is a secret weapon for anyone. If you're tired or fatigued and in 2 minutes you want to change the whole outcome of your energy level, hot pepper cayenne, taken in a little cup of water or apple juice or anything like that, a few drops can just automatically, wow, just blast circulation, blood flow, energy. And it also ups what's called dopamine. What's that dopamine thing, that transmitter, right? Neurotransmitter?
Yeah, it's a neurotransmitter. So it's going to make your mood better. It's going to increase your energy, make you feel a little bit happier. It's amazing.
Yeah, I know sometimes I come back, long day at work, and you just, I don't think I'm going to exercise. I'm just going to sit down and lie in bed and things like that. You take a few drops of cayenne, you recover your evening.
You absolutely do. You're up and going.
Now, one thing about cayenne, you find it in climates that hot climates.
Mm-hmm.
So why would we have a hot plant in hot climates? Doesn't that going to make us hotter?
It doesn't, though. It opens everything up, opens up the blood vessels, and it cools you actually right down. You start to sweat, which is the body's
Sure.
natural way of cooling
Cooling down
down.
opens your pores.
And you cool down, it opens everything up.
So it's fantastic for exercise. Right before you exercise,
Absolutely.
opens up the pores and things like that. Another application is pain. It has a remarkable effect in terms of pain. There's an ingredient called capsaicin, so you can find it in all these over-the-counter rubs. So any type of arthritis, pain. So I'm going to ask, we're going to do a demonstration. So we have some of our audience, 3 members coming up, including my daughter Carlina. We're actually going to take some drops, and you can get this, Vitacost.com, John Christopher, hot cayenne, so you can all try that at home. And I'm going to put a few drops in this water. Okay, let me give a little more for Jerry, because he's a hot tamale. Joel, that's yours. Okay, don't drink it. We're all going to drink it together to give a demonstration. This one is yours.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Oop, I gave you too much, Carlina, but I know you can do it. All right. Now, this is called going through the drink of fire, and I want everybody to observe. I mean, what this should do is it's a vasodilator. All our vessels should open, nasals open, so it clears the lungs, clears the breathing, and gives you, you might go for a few minutes, but ready?
Like if you have a stuffy nose?
Yes, cheers.
Cheers. Ooh, that one was hot.
Ooh, now dopamine going up, your face is turning red, that's called arubifacin, circulation going through, and I'd like to finish off by just reading University of Cincinnati cardiologists, all their studies they've done, published in Circulation, October 2009. Cardiologist Neil Weintraub, who tested this out on animals, said that he found an astonishing 85% reduction in cardiac cell death when capsaicin was used. This is the cayenne cream. This is the most powerful cardioprotective effect ever recorded, and he recommended a study with EMTs, ambulances, to take that cream and put it on whole heart attack patients to open up the vessels and stop a heart attack. So cayenne has, in Chinese medicine, it's the ultimate qi. Look at this. Everybody feel that breathing, oxygen levels, things like that? So I want to thank all of you participation for being willing clients in the hot pepper.
That wasn't that bad.
Oh, well, that's good. Coming from a kid, see, even you
There
can
you
use it
go.
with children.
I
And,
think I'll be awake for 100 years. This is great.
So thank you, everybody. I want
Thank
to
you.
thank you for tuning into Health Buzz. Our next few shows, we will be looking at some other of the world's healthiest foods that can help you very much. So long to everybody. Say
Thanks
everybody.
for joining us.
Thank you.